Hello and good evening, everyone. At Ikigaii, I often meet students who say, I want to study at a top university, and parents who ask, what should my child start doing now? But the most important question is this that how do we help a student become ready for that university? And this is exactly why we are having this session today and what makes this session so special. When we speak about a university, about the University of Cambridge and UCL, we are not only speaking about two world's most renowned institutions, we are speaking about academic environments that value curiosity, depth, critical thinking, independent outlook, subject clarity, and a student's genuine interest for learning. So many Indian students and our and parents, uh, the UK application process can feel very different from what they are used to. It is not just about marks, it is not just about activities, not about collecting certificates or building a strong, big resume. It's about academic clarity. UK is all about academic clarity. It is about knowing why you want to study a subject. It is about being able to think, read, question, analyze, and engage with an idea beyond the classroom, which is my favorite line that what have you done to demonstrate your love for the subject, and how have you gone out of your comfort zone to know more about your subject. It is about critical thinking, and the shift in thinking is what we hope today's conversation will open up to. So whether you are in grade 9 or that is just beginning to explore, or grade 12, that is you're preparing your application, this session is not only about Cambridge and UCL admissions, it's about understanding what serious academic preparation really looks like. We will try and cover that as much. Parents, today's conversation is equally important for you because sometimes the most powerful support, and this is important for parents, what we give to our children is not pressure, not comparison or panic. Planning is more important than creating that button that do this now and do that later and keep being on their head. So, it is helping them discover that, what they are truly drawn to and giving them the structure, exposure, and encouragement to go deeper. Well, with this, hello and welcome. We are truly delighted to welcome my two very good friends, Sarah Hales and from the University of Cambridge, and Davina Smith from UCL today. Sarah will help us understand the Cambridge, its academic expectations, its application process, and how students should approach admissions in this highly selective university with the right mindset. Davina will help us understand UCL, its wide academic choices, global outlook, interdisciplinary learning, and what makes UCL experience so distinctive, especially it being a university inside the London. Tonight's conversation is built around a few important questions, and this is important. What kind of learner does Cambridge look for, and what does UCL value in an applicant? How should students choose grade 10, 11, 12, and what subjects, and how should they use these classes wisely? How does a student move from interest to evidence? I invite all students and parents to listen actively, take notes, and keep your questions ready for Q&A segment. With that, I again warmly welcome Sarah and Davina for taking time out for us, and we look forward to an amazing and meaningful and insightful session. Well, let's begin, guys. Let us see if the chat box is still working. So let's say hi, parents and students. You can click and send us an expression. Say hi, and that would be very nice. Give us a thumbs up if you are able to listen to us and your, audios are working. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the first segment. That is, let us understand. Over to you, Sarah. Cambridge is, of course, dream for many students. In simple terms, what kind of learner does Cambridge look for?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Hema. Thank you to everybody out there for giving up your Friday evenings, and to Hema and Davina for also giving up your Friday evenings to share your insights. In terms of what Cambridge is looking for, we are an academically competitive university. We are very selective. Um, Most people think that we're looking for the brightest and the best students. And of course we are. But grades are not enough. What we're looking for is our students, and Hema has already touched on this, that are really passionate and committed to their subject. In the UK, and I'm sure we'll touch on this again, you apply directly to a course and you study that subject in depth from right from day one, week one. We want students that know that their passion lies in that area of education, be it law, be it engineering, be it medicine. They want to study. But what we're really looking for is the academically curious. So it's not always, and people are surprised when I say this, it's not always that student that sat quietly at the front of the class and always did their homework and always got 100%. Please do your homework if you're listening to me out there. Don't just go into school next week and say, Miss Sarah from Cambridge said I don't have to do my homework. But what we're really looking for are those students that want to go beyond their school curriculum. Perhaps those students that are always asking, but why, sir? Why, sir? Those students that want to know what would happen if we changed X? What would happen if the outcome of this was different? And those that have demonstrated their research, their interest beyond the classroom. That's what we're really looking for in a student.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Davina, so what does tell us about UCL is looking for from the global outlook perspective? It is known for that and it looks for strong academic range. What kind of students do well at UCL as per you?
Thanks, Hima, and hello to everyone who's listening to us today. And it's always a pleasure to be a part of these sessions hosted by Ikigaii. So quickly to touch upon your question, Hima, I think Sarah has very aptly and very precisely told us about what kind of students Cambridge is looking for. And I think to a very large extent, UCL also looks at similar qualities within a student. We are very much interested in students who can demonstrate their passion for the subjects that they're going to apply for. We want to see that curiosity. We want to see that drive in them as not just in grade 12 or in the final year, but throughout at least their high school years, so that we know that their vision aligns with what universities like Cambridge and UCL are looking for. And we are also invested in seeing or analyze. Our admissions teams are very much interested in analyzing whether the student is capable of going through the rigor of a university like UCL and Cambridge. So I think the key thing that our universities will be interested in knowing is not just your grades, but also how you apply that knowledge into your real life and how you have been engaged in activities outside of your classroom that can show relevance to the program that you're going to apply for.
Absolutely. So over to you, Sarah, again. So I understand in continuation to this, the course choice is extremely important because that's where you are, weighed between one and another student. So how does a student decide whether a subject is truly right fit for them? I do.
Absolutely, a great question. And I think one of the things that your students will hear a lot, both from supporters like HEMA from your schools, is a word called supercurricular activity. And this is where you go beyond your school curriculum to explore your subject of interest. So it might be that you've decided that you're quite interested in engineering. Why are you interested in engineering? What has happened to spark that interest? And perhaps you might go on and explore it. Perhaps you've taken part in an activity or belong to a club, and then you want to explore it further. Perhaps you're interested in history. Don't just listen to what your history teacher tells you, but go to the library, explore areas of history that are really interesting to you. So what we're looking for is those students that have perhaps, the first question on the personal statement in UCAS is, why are you interested in this subject? What we don't want to hear is, ever since I was a child, I've wanted to be a doctor. What we're interested in is, why did you first get interested in it? Was it something you read at school? Was it something you saw on TV or listened to? And then how did you take that and explore it in more detail? And it's that, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later on down the line, that we want you to reflect upon in your personal statement so we can get an understanding of your passion, your curiosity, what you've done to demonstrate your interest in a subject.
Perfect. So, Davina, when we look at this subject, the right fit subject, which is the common question amongst all students of grade 11 and 12, that they are not sure or they are still exploring, and that eureka moment comes for them, some of them a little later. So, what are the signs that that a student is academically ready for a subject at UCL? I understand you offer a wide range of courses, and there are a lot of interdisciplinary options. So how would you help a student explore and make sure, and how do we also ensure that they pick up the right course and right subject?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Hima, actually. And this is something actually relevant to UCL, because not only we offer a wide variety of options, a wide variety of programs, but the key thing to crack with UCL is to understand the interdisciplinary options that we give. So simply, like I'll give you an example here. We get a lot of students who are interested in studying economics, for instance, and then they bring in economics and finance together. Now at UCL, we offer economics or pure economics under our Faculty of Social and Historical Sciences. And what a lot of people tend to miss is that we have combination subjects with economics that sit under our Faculty of Mathematical Sciences as well. So if somebody is interested in having a very quant-oriented career, or wants to go into investment banking, hedge funding, portfolio management, and those kind of careers, they may also look at something under our mathematical sciences, which could be a statistics and economics combination or statistics and finance combination. Whereas somebody who is not willing to explore the options or is in a one-track mind that I need to do economics purely may miss out on that option. So what we recommend students, and when we help students, is that we try to gauge as to what kind of a career trajectory they're looking at. And sometimes we also try to reverse engineer the entire process by asking them, at this point in time, of course, plans change as you grow and as you progress in your career, but what's the actual purpose or reason of applying to a particular subject whilst you're in your final year of high school? So that allows us to understand and then recommend the right fit for students. And in if there will be times, there will be instances when that may not be the exact fit, but then at least the student has all the options in front of them. And then if they do their due diligence and research in terms of the modules that are available across our available options, that helps them understand their idea and their inkling as well towards which subject they want to go for.
Absolutely. So before moving further, parents and students, I think this is a one very, very important area in my 28, 29 years of career. This topic, that which subject and which course and which program. So like the Vena said, that if you choose the wrong economics, which would be quant heavy, then it could be a nightmare for you. So these are some of the mistakes students make while choosing the options or courses at different universities. So well, there comes, sorry, I'm bragging, comes the role of a counselor. So we spent 3 months. It actually takes us 3 months to shortlist country course in college. And if you do can, see that we really make an effort there, that you make sure that you keep digging into the child, what kind of branching, what kind of learning they want to achieve at the end of the course. And of course, like you rightly said, Davina, we are set to evolve. We have to change. And it's my favorite dialogue with parents and students. If we would not evolve, then human would be living in caves. So I mean, it's okay to explore. It's okay to say, I don't want it. It's okay at the end of the. So, there is a report also that I think 19 to 21% of students change their mind just before clicking the button. So that's as per one of the reports I read. So, well, that's great. So over to you, Sarah. The next thing, would you like to add anything with respect to choosing a course at Cambridge? What not to be done?
I think you're exactly right. Wherever you're choosing a course, whether it's Cambridge or anywhere else, look beyond the course title at the modules and the content of the course. Look at how it's taught. We teach by a supervision style of teaching, which is very one-on-one, discussion-based teaching. That is great if you enjoy that style of teaching. If you're looking for perhaps a more practical or a more lecture-based style of teaching, there are other good universities that offer that. Similarly, say you want to come to us for English. If you're into Chaucer and Shakespeare, absolutely, when you look at the course list, we teach all of those things. If you're looking for post-World War II feminist literature, that's not a module we teach, but there are other good universities that do teach that if that's where your passion lies. So just look beyond the title of the course as well to make sure it's the best fit for you.
So Divina, let's begin with how does UCL review an undergrad application? Let's come to the action now, the application process, the next segment. How do you review the application? What should students focus on while preparing their UCAS application? And how important is, of course, like you rightly mentioned, the subject combination, the subjects on their report cards or HLSLs for IBs and other A levels, other subjects. As you said, predicted personal statements. Sarah said supra curriculum, engagement. Where is the weightage for each one of them? We're going to spend some time in this application process. So over to you, Davina. Let's begin with you.
Yeah, thanks, Hima. So with UCL, and I think this sits true with most higher ranked universities in the UK, and I can safely say for Oxford, Cambridge, us, Imperial, LSE. We look at applications holistically, and by holistically, I mean not in terms of having both academic and extracurriculars and a huge list of activities and stuff, but holistically through academics. So when you're making your application to us, it's a very simple, straightforward process. You put in your UCAS choices and you select the subjects. Now, when it comes to subject selection across those 5 universities, a top tip that we give students is that please do not apply to more than one course at the same university, and especially if that university is of the kinds of Cambridge, UCL, and the likes, because we don't want you putting all your eggs in the same basket. When it comes to choosing the variety of subjects, we recommend them to pick up either same or similar or allied programs across those 5 universities. The reason being you are only given a chance to write one statement of purpose, and that one statement goes to all 5 of your choices. Within that statement of purpose, I think UCAS has made it very clear from last year as to the kind of responses you need to put in. The word limit remains the same for 4,000 characters, but you now need to split it across 3 questions. Your first one being as to why do you want to study the subject? So we are looking at your motivation, your drive, your passion for the course, and what you intend to do with your degree moving forward. Your second question targets your academic history and excellence. So how have your academics helped you? And this is where your subject choices really do matter. So whether you're coming from an Indian national curriculum or whether you're coming from A levels or IBs, I think the subject combination makes a huge difference, because no matter what you're going to study, this particular element in your personal statement will make or break your application in terms of your suitability for the course and your academic soundness. So if you're an IB curriculum student, if your HLs are not up to the mark, or if your subject combination is way too diverse, it may not show us the soundness, your knowledge base for your application that you're making to us. And then your third question is all about anything else that you want to share. And like Sarah mentioned about the super curriculars, this is your chance to tell us as to what you have done outside of the classroom that relates to the program and how it bears relevance to the program that you're going to go for. We do understand that a lot of students want to pick up things like research papers, essay competitions, and internships, work shadowing. Not everybody is able to do so. But even if you're doing that, we are not interested in looking at a list of stuff, but we are interested in actually looking at what have you learned from it and what kind of skill sets you're bringing to your application. And even if it's one passion project, we are more than happy to accept that. We are not looking for 10 things on your application. It's more about quality than quantity, and how that particular project or initiative has actually made you eligible for that program and has made you realize that this indeed, like XYZ course, is indeed the chosen path for me. So I think, in a nutshell, this is what UCAS is looking for. And this is what universities like us are also looking at, because you need to be succinct, you need to be precise in what you're saying. And one thing that I tell all applicants applying to the UK is less is more with UK. We are not looking for a lot of stuff. Provide us with the information that we are asking for, and we'll be more than happy to review it on that basis itself.
That would be very nice. Thank you. Sarah, would you like to add anything, especially in terms of the fact that, like for US, we are looking for more awards than activities. And when we work with students, I make it another, I will, raise the bar for this question. Sorry. So in US, again, you are looking at activity and awards, and these activity awards are in the order of international, national, state, district, school level. And there are universities in UK which actually write that do not give us intra-school activities. So, so it makes tougher for students, for some of them, especially if their school is not offering, or they're not aware, if they do not have counselors or they do not have support, to be able to attend that international level award activity, national, state, district schools. So how would you help them here? And what would
Sure.
you say? Yeah, thank you.
Sure, absolutely. And Davina put it really well, particularly in that super curricular activity. That's where things like Olympiads or essay competitions might come in. And she quite rightly said, we don't necessarily, quite differently to the US, we don't want a list of things that you've achieved. We want to see what you've learned from it, your reflection on it. So actually, if I'm honest, if you've done an Olympiad and you've won gold, that's great. Or if you've won an essay competition or had a paper published, that's great. But we're less interested in the fact that you've done it. We are more interested in, why did you decide to do it? How did you prepare for it? What did you find interesting about this? What did you find challenging about this? What has it led you to want to do further? So even if a student hasn't participated in an international Olympiad or had a paper published, they can have as much to say equally interesting just by reading in the library or doing their own passion project, perhaps an EPQ if they're doing an A-level, or like extended essay from IB. So there's no need to have done, national or international competitions, as long as they can demonstrate their interest. Just as an aside, again, sort of looking at the comparisons between the US and UK, because I know that a lot of people, are just beginning their Common App application probably as we speak. Again, in the US, when they talk about holistics, they're looking for perhaps sports, volunteering, part-time work. In the UK, we're less interested in that. Please keep doing these things. It's really good for your mental health, and all universities will encourage you to continue these at university. But if you're doing these, if you're including it in your statement of purpose, we want to see what we call the transferable skills. So if you're captain of the cricket team, I don't want to know that you're captain of the cricket team. The first thing our admissions tutors is going to say is, well, how does that make them a good engineer? But if you tell us that by being captain of the cricket team, you've learnt team building skills, communication skills, which is going to be essential if you're part of a project group in engineering, then that becomes a transferable skill that you've learned. So we're looking predominantly at your educational exploration, but it doesn't have to be on an international or national stage.
For the courses like math, engineering, computer science, and economics or natural science, both the universities have tests like TMUA, ESAT, STEP, TCA, etc. And more are coming with every day. So you're challenging students further. So help us. And Sarah, specifically, which we'll address a little later as well, tell us about the relevance of APs and tell us about the boards and their tests which are accepted and which board may need to do. So this will be a little longer here, and then we'll come over to you, Davina.
Sure. So in terms of Cambridge, we accept a wide range of qualifications international. So we accept A levels, IB, the US curriculum, AP tests. In terms of the Indian boards, we accept or will do, this is breaking news, for 2027 entry, we will accept CBSE for some courses and at some colleges because we're a collegiate university. Now, the courses that we will be accepting CBSE for are typically those courses that require an A star AA entry. So most of our humanities or social sciences courses. Because it is the colleges that admit students, certain colleges are equipped to support students with these qualifications and some are not. So you will need to apply directly to one of the colleges that is accepting the CBSE. If you are looking to come to us on a STEM course or are taking other state boards, including ICSE, you will need to do additional qualifications. This isn't because we don't think the Indian state boards are rigorous enough. It's simply because the way we teach is a very different way of teaching to the way of learning that you might have experienced with state boards. So having those additional qualifications indicates to us that you are strong in that style of learning. So for courses where we don't accept Indian state boards, then you would need to sit 5 APs. These are Advanced Placement American College Board exams. They can be taken in India independently, and you would need to get a grade 5 in each of those 5 APs. And those APs should be related to your subject of interest. So if you're interested in engineering, there should be maths and physics. If you're interested in humanities, then you'd be looking at humanities type subjects.
Mm-hmm. Davina, would you like to add something here with respect to the TMUA, your tests and other tests that you have for specific courses? And it will be nice if you can give a kind of a heads up to the parents here so that they understand which courses in this, because this is August already. And if they're looking at 27 intake, then they need to start preparing for those tests. And then there is, medical deadlines, especially for Cambridge and Oxford. And so this kind of things, we want to give them a heads up so that they take away this information from this session, which is very specific. And, so over to you, Davina.
Sure. Before I talk about the test, because we've just heard from Sarah about APs, to clear UCL's stance on APs, I would say we do not require APs. So if you are targeting Cambridge, then of course you need to take APs. But if you're just targeting UCL, APs are not a requirement. You may want to showcase your scores to us, but please only mention it on your personal statement if you have a 5 in the subjects that you're taking. We also do not require all 5 APs to be taken. A lot of students do take 1 or 2 depending upon which subject they want to challenge themselves with. And this especially sits with our CBSE and ISE students who may feel that, if they're lacking on one subject that is asked by us, then they take that AP. So that will only add as an academic achievement on your personal statement, but again, it's not a mandatory requirement. Similarly, for SATs and ACTs as well, we do not require those tests. And if students want to share that, we would say score as high as possible so that it holds that importance or that gravitas on your application. Other than that, in terms of the curriculums accepted, we are accepting students from A levels IB, CBSE, and ISC as well. And within state boards, we are only accepting students from the Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and West Bengal state boards. Other state boards will not be accepted, and unfortunately, we also do not offer an alternative route through taking up APs or our foundation program. So ideally, those students won't be eligible at our university. Now, coming to the testings, we require 5 tests. Medicine students will require UCAT. Law students will require LNAT. This year we have introduced TMUA for our economics and pure economics program only. We are also asking for ESAT for our electronics and electrical engineering applicants only. And then for our, which one am I missing? TARA. So TARA is the new test, which is a logical reasoning and conceptual a critical analysis test, which is asked by a computer science department as well as our mechanical engineering department. Now, one thing that I'd like to clear here is that tests like ESAT, TARA, and TMUA are not tests like those of SATs and ACTs, where you can take that test and you can showcase your scores to all other universities. These tests are exclusively taken for the relevant universities that are asking for it, and for those particular courses only where they have been asked. So for instance, I'll give you, I'm not sure about the Cambridge system, but the most common example that I use is with Imperial. So Imperial asks, if you're applying to computer sciences at both Imperial and UCL, we ask for TARA and Imperial asks for TMUA for that, for CS. So you will need to take both these tests. One will not suffice for the other. Or if you don't want to take those 2 tests, you will need to choose between either Imperial or UCL when applying for that course. So please bear in mind that these tests do not need to be taken by everyone. Only if you're applying to the particular course, they need to then take that test. These 3 tests happen twice a year, twice in an academic cycle. You can take the October sitting or the January sitting. If you're applying to Cambridge or Oxford, you need to take the October sitting. But if that's not on the cards, you are free to take up the January sitting as well. And your reference point for these testings would be UAT UK, which is the Universities Admissions Test UK website. You will find all your sample papers and guidance to how to prepare for these tests on these links.
I think what you said, Avina, is very, very meaningful here and important, because there are already too many tests these students are taking in grade 12. So that's where the role of parent or a good counselor comes in, where when you make that 5 list, the list of 5, you bite as much as you can chew, actually. So you should not be taking up so many tests that you are not doing well in any one of them. So when you make your list of where all you are applying, that's where the strategy comes in as to what over what, and what is your strength, which test you are naturally prepared for. So I think that's what, Davina, you also said, that between the two, just be careful of what you're choosing. So having said that, there are students who come to me, say, Hima, I'm interested in economics. I love computer science. Love psychology. So, Sarah, I want to know one evidence-based. I know you will go away this year then. One evidence-based. And what does this evidence look like for Cambridge that I love economics or I love psychology? We would love to hear about one such application from you. And that would be very good.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it really is. What does a personal statement look like? The first thing to say is there is no one perfect personal statement, because that word personal is in personal statement for a reason. So it's what's personal to you. But I can certainly give you I can give you an example. I'll give you an example of a medicine student actually first, that's fairly similar to our PBS, which is our psychology and behavioral sciences, and then I'll talk about an economics one. But it was a student that was based in the Middle East and was applying for medicine. And what they did is they actually were of South Asian descent and they traveled to India during their summer holiday and they volunteered in the A&E department of a local hospital. Now, they weren't shadowing, they weren't working directly with the doctors. They were working on reception. But what they noticed and what they wrote about in their personal statement was when children came in, they were very, very nervous about coming into an A&E department. So this particular student organised a toy drive and decorated a small part of the waiting room. And then when younger children came in, they were much more relaxed and ready for their treatment. Now, this isn't something medical, but what it did was it demonstrated that she fully understands the role of a doctor and medicine and the importance of patient-centered care. And so she highlighted this in a really strong personal statement. Similarly, something like economics, we've had students, I remember one who'd sort of said, I wasn't interested in economics to begin with. Something came out of a social studies class I was doing, and I read this article about women's rights. And then I started thinking that women typically, because of the way they're treated, are economically less, you know, agile than the men or economically less able than men. And so I explored the economics of women in the workplace and how this has changed over time. And because I was interested in this, I wrote my extended essay on this aspect of, women's purchasing power. And so again, it showed that they were really interested and they were thinking about economics, maybe from a slightly different angle than perhaps somebody who had come down sort of a quant-based economics field had been. So it just shows that you don't need, as we said, these, international Olympiads or things like that. If you've done them, that's great, but you can demonstrate your learning a number of different ways, and it doesn't have to be the very straightforward way that we always think of.
Sarah, so there is one more common question which I get from most of the students is there an interview for every Cambridge course? One. Second, if yes, then what are the 2 tips for interview preparation you would like to give it to them?
Absolutely. There is an interview for every single course. We don't interview everybody, but everybody that gets into Cambridge is interviewed. The interview isn't the final stage of the application. As Davina said earlier, we look at students holistically. If you've got the predicted grades, a strong personal statement, we're going to want to meet you to explore your interest a little bit further. Our interviews are subject specific. So if you are coming to us for a STEM subject, for instance, there will be questions on maths or physics if it's that area, or biology if it's that area. If you're coming to us for economics, because it's a very quant-based course, there will be mathematics problems. If you're coming to us for something like law or history, we might ask you to look at an artifact or interpret a document that you haven't seen before. We're not looking for perfect answers. If you knew all the answers, you wouldn't need to come to Cambridge. We want to see how you think. These interviews are designed to mimic the supervisions that we hold, so it's discussion based. The best way to prepare for these interviews is to practice talking about your subject out loud so that you're confident in doing it. Try explaining to a maths teacher how you would do this maths problem, but also try explaining to a friend that doesn't study maths how you would approach it so that you know it's understandable. Try talking to your parent or the dog or the mirror about an aspect of history that really interests you so that you really feel confident about talking about your subject academically out loud.
Does a call for interview mean that you are in? And at what stage can you expect? So is it out of 2 interviewed, 1 is in? So where have you reached in terms of the milestones that you've crossed to get into Cambridge? I'm sorry.
So yeah, absolutely. Everybody asks this. We're slightly different to Oxford. We interview in a slightly different way. Oxford is a little bit more linear in the process, and they perhaps interview 50% of students, so perhaps 1 in 2 get in. At Cambridge, we will interview up to 70% of the applicants. So we interview more students. Unfortunately, that does mean that we let more students down. I just wanted to, without sort of hijacking the conversation too much, I wanted to let people know about, we will let all students know in January if they've been successful or unsuccessful. What I would say is if you are deemed unsuccessful, this is not a reflection of your ability or your knowledge or your personality. You wouldn't be applying to places like Cambridge or UCL if you weren't top of the top. We
Absolutely.
tend to reject students for 2 reasons. Firstly, because after interview, we have determined that perhaps your style of learning doesn't match our style of teaching, isn't suited for that supervision style of teaching. It doesn't mean you won't be really successful at another university that teaches in a different way. The second reason we turn people down is because perhaps you've demonstrated to us that your passion lies slightly elsewhere. And I can give a great example of this. It was a student that applied to us for engineering. And in their personal statement, they'd written brilliantly about their passion for aeronautical engineering. At Cambridge, we don't offer aeronautical engineering. We offer a general engineering course where you can specialize in aeronautics or mechanics further down the line. Now, we noted that we probably couldn't support the students' passion for aeronautical engineering, and they would be a better fit elsewhere. And I do happen to know that they went to a different, very highly regarded university and are absolutely flying there. So, you know, if we reject you, it's not because you're not bright enough or a reflection of you. It is for a very specific reason.
So, well, that is all about the right fit, Sarah. So, Davina, over to you. How would you do you have interviewed for every course in your university? And if yes, no, the specific things that you'd like to talk about here in the selection process.
Sure. So it's slightly easier, good news, not like Cambridge, but we do interview students, but only for our architecture program and our programs like fine arts under our Slade School of Fine Art and our media and communications program. So these are the only handful that will be asked for an interview. And prior to this, there will be a portfolio requirement. Especially for our architecture program, so when you make an application to us, we will invite you for a portfolio submission, which you need to do within 2 weeks of receiving that email. And then if your portfolio is deemed suitable or competitive, our department will then invite you for an interview. The other important program that asks for an interview is your medicine program, which already builds the MMIs, the multiple mini interviews, into the selection process that is used by universities all across the UK. And in terms of selection, again, I would say to an extent, like Sarah mentioned, that we are the reasons why we reject students is where we understand that the students' learning or the rigor is not being matched by what UCL would generally expect for. So, to give you a very basic sense of the numbers, so for this year, for 2026 intake, we received close to 106,000 applications globally for undergraduate programs, wherein we only have 8,000 seats, roughly, right? So the basic reason why UCL rejects students is because we have sheer volume of applications and we have very limited seats. And almost, I would say, 90% of the applications that we receive do meet the eligibility criteria. So everyone who applies to us is top of the class, like Sarah mentioned, and they are creme de la creme for their classes, for their courses, for their disciplines. but then how do you differentiate from the other person who is applying to? And that's where your suitability and I've been saying this word rigor quite frequently, because we are not your average university where you can be an all-rounder and still, achieve flying with flying colors. There is a certain sense of academic gravitas that sits within UCL, and that is why when our admissions teams looks at your applications, they do see as to how invested you are in the subject and whether you understand what we are trying to teach you and what our faculties have to offer in the first sense. And that is, again, that brings me to like one of the top tips that I give students is that don't just look at the course, but look at the faculty as to what kind of work they are generating, what kind of research is going on, what are our current students doing within that faculty or within that department that sets them out. And that allows students to then realize whether their career or their vision aligns with that of the university or not. So I
Totally
think,
agree with you. I think
yeah.
that brings us to this first question we started this webinar with. What does a student at Cambridge or UCL look like, So what is it that you're looking for, and which fits well, which kind of student fits well in these universities? So rigor, I think, is academic rigor is the writing on the wall. And students have to understand that whatever is happening in the university is something they are capable of doing so that they excel there and they don't feel left out. I think that's perfect. Coming back to you, Davina, one more question I have. So when you have these interviews, you have test, you have essay, you have application, you have predicted, and you have 10th grade percentage.
Yes.
Is there a fixed weightage in terms of admission and with each segment, each area of the test of the application complete process? How do you define this so that it becomes easy for the parents? So they know that I need to focus more if supposing I have less time, so I need to focus on the Tara more, or do I need to focus on writing my essay more? Do I look for predicted more? Or do I look for what? Or do I look for everything? And then you get into UCL or Cambridge.
So the good thing or the bad thing, I don't know how to put it, is that we don't. So these requirements are not staged requirements. Okay, what I mean by that is when you're making an application, we are looking at everything at the same level. It's not like you'll pass one level and then we'll ask you for another test, and then you'll pass that and we'll ask you for another interview or something like that. It's a very linear, straightforward, everything on one platform kind of a requirement where you're putting in your UCAS application. Along with the UCAS application, your personal statement and your letter of recommendation are evaluated at the same level. And wherever there is a test requirement, that will also be a part of the same evaluation process. Now, the only reason I think we've been trying to tell this that we did not have a test until last year, especially with Tara, ESAT, and TMUA. The only reason we have introduced it so that we can find quantifiable reasons to reject students. It's just like another gatekeeping, so to speak, because, like I said, everybody needs the condition, but then how do we reject students quantifiably, right? So that's where the testings come in. But then again, you have to understand that these testings are only for a handful of programs, not for everything else. So it's not a rule, but it's an exception for limited courses only. And then wherever there is a portfolio requirement, that is the only courses where we say that, the portfolio and the interview are staged. So if your portfolio is great, we'll then invite you for an interview. And getting an interview does not guarantee you a place on our program as well. So it will lead on to the overall application review as to how we look at holistically and how you sit with your competition in that particular talent pool. I hope that kind of makes it slightly more clearer as to how we
Yes,
look at applications.
absolutely. Sarah, would you like to add anything?
Um, Absolutely. In terms of Cambridge, in quite a similar way, first and foremost, we will look at your predicted grades. If they're not of the appropriate level, then we won't look at your application any further. After that, everything else is equally weighted. So your letter of reference, your statement of purpose, the outcome of any of these admissions tests that you've taken, and your interview are all equally weighted. They are all scored. And at the end of interviewing everybody, our admissions tutors sort of sit down with all the scores of everybody and rank them. So that's how we do it. The one thing that I would say, because we get a lot of questions on this, is if you've taken IGCSEs, GCSEs, grade 10 exams, people often say, well, what's the weighting of those? Do you need all nines or do you need the best grades on those? We will see those because they're on your UCAS form, but we will take your predicted final grades for your A levels, your IB, your APs, or anything else over those GCSE grades. We know that, perhaps at 16, when you're taking those exams, you're not as mature as when you were 18. Perhaps you haven't fully grasp the importance of education at that age. We would encourage you to do your absolute best in those exams if you've got those coming up, if you're slightly younger now. But we are looking mostly at your predicted final grades in terms of the academic ability.
Thank you.
Can I just add to Sarah here, when it comes to predicted grades, one thing that a lot of students ask us when we tell them our entry requirement is that, is this what you need to get at 10th or 12th or whatever? I think the bottom line is that whatever predicted that we are displaying, whatever entry requirements that we're displaying on our websites, that needs to be your predicted, and that needs to be your actual scores. So a lot of students say that, whilst, for example, our entry requirements are A star AA, but if I get an A star A, do I hold more value? Yes, you will hold more value. You will be a competitive applicant, but then anyone who is also getting an A star AA can also get an offer, whereas somebody with 3 A stars can also get a rejection, right?
Absolutely.
So you need to make sure that your predicted needs to be what we are asking for, and that actually needs to be your final scores as well. And whilst we're on that, I'll also add, especially for UCL, that we do not do flexibility in terms of if you have missed by 1 point or 1 mark or 1 grade. If you are not meeting the conditions as stated, unfortunately, we are unable to convert your conditional offer into unconditional one.
Absolutely. So I actually wanted to touch this as the next segment, that is conditional and unconditional offers. Also touch up something called scholarships in this segment. And so whoever wants to take this up. So for both of you, we want to talk about conditional and unconditional offers. As you rightly said, the minimum that has to be there. There is no, there is no way we can have even 1 point less. There is no tolerance on that. And there is, of course, employability that parents want to look at in today's time. Internships that universities offer, both of you especially, and of course others. Kind of industry exposure, employability. These are important concerns in the AI times. And having said that, any one of you can take it up, and the question is open to both of you.
I'm happy to touch on conditional and unconditional, and then I can talk about scholarships because unfortunately for Cambridge, they're probably fewer than I know UCL has some wider ones. In terms of conditional and unconditional offers, Cambridge, unless you're applying with your grades already in hand, your final achieved grades, all offers from Cambridge will be what we call conditional. This will be conditional on your achieving final grades, or certain things such as perhaps an English language test if English isn't your first language or you haven't been studying in English. If you meet the conditions of your offer, you are in. That's legally binding by us. So say you're doing the IB and we make you a conditional offer of achieving 41 points. On results day, you've achieved 41 points. It doesn't matter if everyone else in the world achieved 45 points. You met the conditions that we set for you and you will be joining us. In terms of financing, we do know this is a big return on investment. It's important that you get value for money. At Cambridge, we have very limited undergraduate international scholarships. All of them are needs-based only. We don't offer academic or sports scholarships. We have some that are sort of partially around 25 to 50% of tuition, which are available through our Cambridge Trust, which is our sort of philanthropic arm. And some of the colleges may have funding. You don't need to apply for any scholarships. If you apply to Cambridge and are made an offer, at that point, we will advise you of any scholarships that you may be eligible for or eligible to apply for. But I did just want to highlight that unfortunately, they're not likely to be sort of full fees and living expenses, more smaller bursaries to sort of help you get by.
So, and any other kind of like industry insights, internships, employability, and any this area would you like to refer to, Sarah, and touch?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of our degrees, unlike many UK universities that do offer sort of a year in industry, many of our degrees don't have that built in. However, our career service and our links to industry, and we have industrial relations across all departments, are there to support students going into internships during the long breaks. Our terms are really short, they're about 8 weeks long, which means our breaks, particularly the summer break, are very long. And many of our students will go into internships found by the university. So this year we've had students going off to Hong Kong, into Europe, remaining in the UK to do internships with, our industrial partners. Because of who we are, because of our research links, because of our industrial links, because of our links to governments, we have plenty of opportunities for those. Unlike many Indian universities, there's not typically the situation where on graduation we place you into a role, but we give you all the opportunities, to come out with a great degree from Cambridge, from UCL, to give you the equipment or to equip you to take your career wherever you want in the world. And each year we have over 500 companies come to Cambridge specifically looking to recruit our graduates. Our careers office are there not just for your first role, but you can come back to our careers office online or in person at any point in your career for support. And of course, that global alumni network that you also have available to you.
Perfect. So over to you, Davina. We discussed the scholarships, employability, internships, and of course, industry exposure, or I would not like to touch post course employability. I don't want to touch there, but let us stick here. And what would you like to say?
Yeah, I think just to echo Sarah's inputs, I think when it comes to employability, when it comes to industry exposure, and the way our careers and employability teams work, it's exactly the same what UCL has to offer as well. Students are exposed to our careers and employability teams right from day one of joining university, so they don't have to wait until their final year to start looking for jobs. These employability cells can be centrally university based, as well as each faculty and department will have their own subject experts as well. So students can reach out to them. They are there to guide you not just for post-study, after completing your degrees, your first job, but they can also help you with your part-times, with your internships, with your work shadowings or volunteerings or whatever it is that you're interested in. One thing that I also tell students quite often is that careers and employabilities, yes, are the experts and they are there, but your first point of contact needs to be your professors. You need to build a good rapport with them because they are the ones who are spending the most amount of time with you. They're the ones who are actually working with you and observing your, day-to-day inputs, your engagement in class. And if you build a good rapport with them, and if you go on and ask them as to if you can put me in touch with XYZ company or XYZ industry, they'll be more than happy to help you with that. So I think it's It's more about, so UK is a very skills-based economy. You need to have the right degree and your right education, but you also need to have the right networking skills to leverage those in order to get good working exposure as well. Now, coming to scholarships, again, we are not that generous when it comes to giving out money, unfortunately. We have just one scholarship scheme that we run, which is our Global Undergraduate Award. Now, this is a need come merit-based award. We have 33 spaces globally. And the requirement is that your family income needs to be less than 45 lakhs a year. There is there is an amount in pounds, which roughly translates into 45 lakhs at the moment, but it will depend what the exchange rate is on the day that you're applying for. So if your family income is less than that, we will then entertain your application. There'll be a whole questionnaire that you need to fill in, and our funding team will do a background check. If you make the cut, we will then shortlist your application and pit it against other merit holders who are also awaiting a position. Within these 33 scholarships, 10 of them are full tuition and full living expenses, whereas 23 of them are full tuition fees. So we do 100%. And within these entire 33, there are 5 spaces reserved for Indian nationals. So technically, just 5 scholarships for Indian students. And it is kind of all or nothing when it comes to UCL. So either you get 100% scholarship or you get nothing. And is there anything else that I'm missing to speak on?
No, I think that was great. So let us come to the last segment of our discussion, which is before the Q&A, which is a quick myth busting round. So the first myth is, you feel free to pitch in one by one, or anybody would like to speak up first, is that if you do an undergrad from UK, then you cannot do masters in a country which has a 4-year degree like US or Canada. Over to you guys.
Absolutely a myth. The undergraduate degree, 3 years or 4 years if you extend it, is globally recognized, particularly from somewhere like UCL or Cambridge.
Correct.
Okay. Davina, would you like to add, or is that okay?
Absolutely. It's a myth, so yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So the second thing is that what one thing you would like to advise, as into the 1 second. Sorry, I had some question here written for you. Sorry. So one myth that you would like to break, Davina, about students applying to UCL, and one myth that you commonly hear when you talk to parents and students.
One myth, I would say, students who say that, I have a 45 on 45, or I'm a 99%er, and I have done everything, and I'm the head boy and head girls or whatever, my admission is done. I think that is a huge myth in terms of, because like I said, we will accept somebody who has a bare minimum requirement 39 on 45, and we will reject somebody who has a 45 on 45 as well. So again, coming back to the same thing, that, what is the right fit and whether you are built for it. That needs to be taken into consideration, and that is the crux of how to crack, admissions into competitive universities like ours.
An IB student or A level has higher chance of acceptance at Cambridge, UCL, and other top universities in UK vis-a-vis the CBSE, etc.
So I'll take this question, because I think we are ones who are accepting all of them. So A levels, IB, CBSE, ISC, and we make it very clear that, when we review your applications, at the first glance, it is kind of curriculum blind. So the reason why we put in individual requirements as per your curriculum is the very fact that we are looking at all curriculums at the same level, be it Indian, be it international, be it Hong Kong, be it French baccalaureate, be it American high school program. anyone who is meeting our individual entry requirements as stated on our website are equally considered at par with other international curriculum as well.
Perfect. Sarah, would you like to add?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think the other myth that comes off the back of this is quotas for international students. I think I probably speak for UCL as well as Cambridge, but we actually don't have quotas for international students. We don't want 20 students from India and 50 students from the US. We just want the best students for the course, whether they come from India or the UK. We want the best students. The only degree where there is a quota is for medicine, and that's because it's set by the UK government for how many international students we can accept.
Perfect. So another myth is about UK admission process in general. So now I'm coming to a general myth that grade 11 scores do not matter. I have a strong 10th and I have a strong 12th predicted. I am okay.
I think, well, to some extent, yes. I won't say completely it's not, we don't look at it. So we base our offers on the back of your predicted. And the bottom line is if you want to get a good predicted like A star AA or a 95, 95, 95, 90, 90, you need to be a consistently high performing student so that your counselor or your subject teacher can vouch for you to give you that predicted. So somebody who is, say, for instance, 90s all across, 9th, 10th, 11th, they will definitely get a higher 90 in the predicted. But somebody who has done like fairly well in 10th, was bottom line in like was a 70-80%er in the 9th and 11th, your teacher may not have full faith on you whether you can pull it off. So that's why we say in order to be safe, please maintain your scores across 3 years so that your final predicted can be up to the mark for us. Of course, we don't see 11th grade scores depending, but if your school is sending it to us through predicted, well, now you can't because you have to simply put down your scores through UCAS. We don't see it, so we are not looking at how we have performed in 11th. So technically, we are blind to it.
Sarah, would you like to add?
Absolutely what Davina said. You know, we may not see it, but your school may be using those to base their predicted grades on. So it is important that, you know, that you do have that academic rigor. And we're both looking for those students that have that passion and that academic rigor. So we want you to continue that throughout your schooling.
I know. So, but as a strategy, if there is a child for whatever reason has not done well in 11th, you can technically not show 11th.
We don't show 11th. So the new system in UCAS is that students input their 10th grade marks, and then the counselor, when they're sending in their LORs, write in the predicted grades. So technically, we are not seeing your 11th grade.
That's the whole discussion is all about that, you know, when you're not looking at 11th. So if I'm looking at, say, for instance, US and UK, US where I need to give in 9, 10th, 11, 12th, and for some reason, which we have seen, you both have more experience than anyone in the industry. So you've seen a lot of dip in 11th, which happens because of the way subjects transform. And there are children who do not do so well, they do dip. So, you know, I think UK helps these students to pull themselves up and make sure that, okay, we are in the game again.
Absolutely. The only thing I'd like to add to that is if for any reason there is a specific extenuating circumstance why a student's grades have dipped in any years, we as universities want to know about that. We can only judge based on the information we're presented with. So if there's any reason that, you know, a student has perhaps had a slight dip, then the more we know about, the more we can take that into account.
I think, yeah.
Just to add to that, so UCL doesn't take extenuating circumstances into consideration, right? Unless that extenuating circumstance is being issued by the board, and or if it is like, you know, a war broke out or a pandemic broke out or something or the other happened, a natural calamity happened, and the exam did not go as per usual, only then that is considered as an extenuating circumstance. Otherwise, UCL has a very strict policy that we do not take extenuating circumstances into condition.
So that's amazing because in Common App you have a space where you can write it. So Sarah, where do we write in UCAS this, or do we write to the university?
So it's a bit of both. In the school's reference, there is a
Oh,
section 2 where you can put any extenuating circumstances. It's
yeah,
not a large section, so you might just want to write, there are extenuating circumstances, a separate information sheet is coming. Then you or the student can contact the college to which they've applied and discuss it with them, and they will generally send out an extenuating circumstances form for you to complete.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Also,
Yeah.
just to add, this extenuating circumstance, if any, has to come before the application has been made. It shouldn't come like, once you're about to receive a result and suddenly realize, oh, my exam did not go well. I was sick on the day, and that's why I could not give my best. That is that is an extenuating circumstance that won't be considered.
Perfect. So we will come to the Q&A segment now because we have only 2 to 3 minutes left. I'll pick up some of the important questions which we have not covered already and which are not largely available. So out of your question, what additional tests are needing, that I will answer to you personally. So we will not take up that because tests are specific subject. So for Ria, any test requirement for international relations? How was architecture course? Teaching method differ from US colleges, especially for courses like engineering? This is interesting. So let us, would you like to address any one of you? How is the teaching method different from US colleges, especially for the courses like engineering?
Um, I think one of the things that's different in all UK courses is, I suppose they're much more linear in that it's the one subject that you teach, you learn, and you follow through. Whereas perhaps in the States, you can take different courses and kind of collect those credits in order to graduate. Again, it will depend on the university as well, but in something like engineering, you are likely to have a mix of subjects, lectures. So you might be studying maths, you might be studying mechanics, you might have to pick up physics because these are the bedrock of all engineering. Plus, depending on your specialism, those lectures in those fields, you will always have practicals. Engineering is very practical. Subject across all universities. But again, how those practicals run, what you study in them, and how long they are will be very different university to university. So it's again looking beyond that headline, I'm going to study engineering at this university to find out exactly what and how you study it.
So we'll take up the next thing. There is a question here that is SAT looked into as a part of the profile?
Like I said before, we do not look at SATs and ACTs. They are primarily US-based tests. And even if you're taking the SATs, and if you have taken the SAT, and if you want to showcase your score, make sure it is 1550 or 1580 and above so that it really stands out. Because we're not asking for it, we don't want to see it. But if you are showing it to us, let it be the best possible score that you can put up.
Yeah,
Oh,
for Cambridge, very similar. If you are at a US-based high school or a high school that requires the SAT or ACT for you to graduate, then we would need to see it. But if you are taking it out of choice, then you don't need to declare it.
there are lots of other questions, but there is one area I think we can address is the math or no math. So this is one area we, I think, missed out. And of course, there's a lot we can discuss with the limited time that we have. But let's address this last segment. That is math or no math, which subjects, rather than telling which subjects require math, I think the pool that does not require math is smaller. What do you guys say? So how would you like to address this? Your call. I would leave
I
to it
think,
open.
yeah, I'll quickly touch upon the math, no math, at least for UCL. Because we are anything that requires STEM, anything that has economics, anything that has a math A star requirement mentioned on the website, we will require math at A level, which has to be A star. Math at higher level at AA or AI at 7, non-negotiable if you're an IB student. And if you're in CBS, you're an ISC student, we require math at 95, non-negotiable, and we require standard math and not applied math. Applied math will only be accepted if you have that and you're applying to something like English or history or political science, law, a program which does not have a math requirement. That's where your mathematical thing can be adjusted. If you are an A-level student, we also do not require you to have further math unless you're applying to a math specific program.
Sarah, would you like to answer further?
Yeah, very similar. For our humanities, our social sciences, we don't require maths as a higher level subject. Any of our STEM, engineering, economics, maths, physics will require maths. And they again will require typically an A or an A star. For IB, we require the maths AA at higher level. That will be the other thing. And if you're taking APs, any of our courses that require maths require calculus BC as that AP.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Davina, for sharing such clear and valuable insights for our students and parents today. I think what stood out strongly from today's conversation is that strong UK applications are not built at the last minute. And, you have to be consistent, and they are built through the academic clarity and, a course choice that is very thoughtful, subject depth that they require. So they don't need to be on superficial level for each subject, because they'll have interviews and tests to take care of, and a genuine curiosity, of course. So to all the students and parents that are here today, I hope you leave with one important question: that how do we move from just a regular interest to an evidence-based interest? That's what they spoke about again and again and again. And well, to all parents, I hope this session helped you to, answer a couple of your questions, and you will help support your child for more clarity, create less panic, give them a lot of love, support, and keep praising your children. Keep telling them they're doing well, they're doing it, and this will help us make a stronger understanding of what is required from there in the life as a whole. At Ikigai, we believe in happiness and careers, and not just careers and top universities. So, as shared in the chat, at Ikigai, we support students with career clarity, profile building, and help you with the course selection, college admission across India and globe, that is international destinations. If you would like to discuss your child's journey and next step, please feel free to book a one-on-one counseling session with us. My appointment links have been shared in the calendar. Thank you once again for joining us this evening, and we wish every student the very best as they explore their academic journey ahead. Thank you, Sarah and Davina, once again. It is very kind of you to come each time and help me and take this session, which is we do once a year. And Sarah, I hope next year we will do something even more exciting together, and have a session which is totally of a different kind. And Davina, we'll rope you in as well. I'm promising that. So let's do something fun and different next year. Of course, besides the UK event that we do once a year. So thank you, guys, and good night, everyone. Take care of yourself. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Bye-bye.